So the title of my talk is The Next Sharing Economy, because I actually think the sharing economy is about to change very dramatically. So I'm Janelle Orsi. I co-founded the Sustainable Economies Law Center in 2009 in Oakland, California, with the understanding that if we're going to change the whole economy and create a positive economy, we also need to change the legal system. We need to change the legal profession. We need to change the regulations that govern our economic activities, and we need to change the legal structures and the contracts that we build our economy upon. So I'll talk a little bit about some of the work that I'm doing, but a little bit more about this economy. What is this economy? So the sharing economy, the collaborative economy, the peer economy, whatever you want to call it, it's enabling people to come together in many varied new ways, harness the resources and the skills that we have in our communities, and use them to meet people's needs. And I am a lawyer, and the work that I do is to support worker-owned cooperatives, housing cooperatives, community gardens, car sharing, energy cooperatives, and other things that bring people together to provide for one another. And sharing is just a very powerful thing. It is the thing that will enable us to alleviate many of the problems that we're facing, the economic problems, the ecological problems, and much more. And technology is what is really enabling the sharing economy to grow so fast. And now we have a lot of websites that have appeared and platforms to help people share with one another. And this is very exciting. And sometimes people use the platforms to earn money, other times not. But it doesn't matter, because one of the things that these platforms are doing is opening new doors that weren't there before. And it's enabling, for example, somebody who needs a ride to connect with the vast universe of other people who are driving cars, and to connect with somebody who is going to and from the same place. And it's magical. It brings people together in new ways. And the person driving the car may earn money or they may not, but this is something that has just never been so possible before. And of course, it's also enabling people on one side of the world to connect with people on another side of the world and stay in their homes. It's just very powerful stuff. And it's not only powerful because it's allowing us to use our skills and our assets in new ways, but it's also changing the flow of money in society. So money is flowing from one person to another. People are starting new enterprises in ways they couldn't before. And that alone is something that is good for our economy. It creates flow. At the same time, if you start to look deeply into the inner workings, the legal structure of the companies that create the sharing economy platforms, you start to realize that there are at least two fatal design flaws. One of those flaws is that the people who own these platforms are not the people who are relying on them for their sustenance and their livelihood. There are shareholders who finance the companies, and small groups of shareholders own the companies. And the companies are designed to create a flow of wealth to those shareholders. And the wealth is moving very quickly. These platforms enable very fast movement of wealth. And the wealth is piling up. It's accumulating, much in the same way that it has been over the last few centuries. But the problem with that is that inequality in our society has grown to the extent that now in the United States, 20% of people control 93% of the wealth. And if you look at the other end of that equation, 80% of people in the United States are basically getting by. They're making their livelihoods. They are struggling and to share 7% of what is left. And it's not just about money. It's about the land that we live on, the land that feeds us, the water that we drink, the buildings in which we live, the factories, the power plants, and the basic infrastructure that helps to sustain us. The vast majority of people have no control over this, and the people who do control it are selling it back to us at prices that we increasingly cannot afford. So to say this is bad it's an understatement. I mean, and it's not just that it is creating societal instability and that it's unfair, but it's also contributing and accelerating climate change, because when people have very few resources to meet their needs, they turn to the cheapest foods, the cheapest goods, the cheapest fuel. And a lot of that, a very large amount of that, is enabled by burning fossil fuels. And we're burning and burning and burning fossil fuels. The sea levels are rising and rising. You can imagine one day I might even be underwater if I were standing on this stage. So wealth inequality, it's affecting everybody eventually. And the second fatal flaw with these companies is who is in charge of them, who is behind the wheel steering the company. There is usually a board of directors. The board of directors receives direct instructions from the shareholders. And the shareholders have particular interests, and their interests may or may not be to create sustainable livelihoods for people. And there are many people who have founded incredible sharing economy platforms, and they have amazing visions for the world. They might have the idea that they're going to create a more sustainable planet and that they're going to create wealth in society. But the moment that they take capital from a venture capitalist, the moment they start taking millions of dollars in from investors, they're always going to have a voice in their head that is encouraging them to maximize profits and saying things like, well, maybe we should market to wealthier people because then we'll increase our margins. Or maybe we should raise the transaction fees or sell private information about our users. And all of these things can grow the wealth of the shareholders, but that may not benefit the users of the companies. And I think that many of the users of these companies have growing discontent and growing dissatisfaction with this situation because their livelihoods can change very quickly with one simple adjustment to how the system works. And they have no control over that. And I think that people are starting to wonder, is this just a great new technology that's very innovative and awesome? Or is this a very large sinking ship that we are basically all shoveling coal into because we are using these platforms, we are making our livelihoods through these platforms, we are fueling this system, but the system is ultimately going to fail. And when it fails, it's going to take many people down with it first, and there will be many people who are high and dry for a long time, so they might not be as concerned about it, but ultimately it will affect everybody. So we have to change. We have to change the way that we do business. And then the question is, what is next for the sharing economy? I'll give you a hint. It has something to do with sharing. And in fact, it has a lot to do with actually sharing and cooperating and collaborating. So, of course, we'll continue to build platforms like the ones that do exist, and people will continue to create new enterprises. But this time, we're not going to funnel the money to the people in society who already have enough money. We'll keep the money there in the company for just 1 minute, because what I'll explain is that the new companies can be structured. They can be legally structured to build sharing into the company in at least 6 ways. So the first is that the companies can share control of the platform with the users, and especially the users who use the platforms to make their livelihoods, the ones who are depending so heavily on these platforms. And they can elect the board of directors, preferably on a democratic basis, on a one-member, one-vote basis. And that means the board of directors is driving the platform in a way that benefits the livelihoods of those users. And that means that they're going to make sure that those workers, those freelance service providers will have good working conditions. So they'll adjust the system in ways that benefit those workers. They'll keep the fees low so that it's accessible to everyone. They'll diversify the membership because, as you'll see in a minute, there's not really going to be anyone who's gaining great profits from operating this platform. So whether or not a person is of high or low socioeconomic status will not matter so much. It's about growing and benefiting this community, or growing the community to benefit everyone. But of course, many platforms will want to include the voice of other types of users and other types of stakeholders. So here we have the person who gets a ride from this platform. So maybe we want to give a voice and a vote to people who rely on this for their vital transportation needs, because that is important. And that means the company will start making decisions that ensure wheelchair accessible vehicles, for example. It will create incentives for drivers to go to low-income areas. It will just generally help to ensure the safety and the well-being of the riders. So all of this means that at this point, the company is really operating for nobody's benefit except for the users. And isn't that really why we created these companies? Is to benefit the users and create a better economy for all of us. At the same time, these companies exist on the planet Earth, where we have many problems to solve. And for that reason, the companies should also share responsibility for the common good. And they can do that, first of all, by collaborating and cooperating with governments. Governments are trying right now to balance many competing interests. They care about the livelihoods of taxi drivers, about the carbon emissions from driving, about traffic in our cities. They care about access to affordable housing. And many cities and states and governments are very upset right now because of platforms like Airbnb and Uber. Many of them are breaking the laws. And I'm a lawyer, and I will be the first to say that many of these laws are not well-fitted, well-suited to the sharing economy. And I think right now we are going to need to begin to change many laws. We'll need to change millions of laws in order to make space for the sharing economy. But we need to do so in collaboration with many different stakeholders, and we need to get the input of different entities that have the best interests of broader society in mind. And that means that companies can also give a voice to nonprofit organizations that are advancing social justice or environmental justice. Right now, I'm helping to restructure a sharing economy company as a cooperative, and there are 7 members of the board of directors, and 2 of those members of the board of directors will be appointed by nonprofit organizations that focus on creating sustainable local economies. So of course, the platform will continue to bring in money, but this money, because of the many different drivers behind the platform, this money will be invested in very different ways. It will not go to shareholders. It will go to invest in electric cars for the users. It might purchase health insurance for the drivers and so on. But there still might be some earnings that are left, even after the company has reinvested them. And that you can share with the users. And here we have one of the users receiving the dividend every year. And if you really want to change the flow of wealth in society, you can share the earnings on the basis of patronage, not on the basis of capital contribution. And so if it's shared on the basis of the number of hours somebody works or drives, that is patronage. And you can also call this a freelancer-owned cooperative, an entity that is democratic and distributes profits based on patronage. That is a cooperative. And a lot of people think of cooperatives as these awkward organizations that take very long time to make decisions and have awkward meetings. But cooperatives are just 2 very important things. At their legal core, money does not buy power in a cooperative. People have power on a one-member, one-vote basis. And capital investment, money, does not buy profits. Profits are distributed based on actual use of the platform. So money does not control cooperatives. People control cooperatives. And that's just a very powerful concept that we need to embrace right now. Many people ask, well, how are we going to finance these platforms? Well, this is the year 2014, so it's important to point out that it's a lot cheaper to create new platforms. We are not building a new ship. We are creating a website and software that is based on models that have already been created and that millions and millions of people already use. And so we can share in the capitalization of these platforms. We can use crowdfunding, and a new platform can maybe get loans or investments of $500 per person from, say, 1,000 people, and then they have $500,000 or €500,000. And many things are making crowdfunding more possible. The law is becoming more friendly to crowdfunding. Technology enables people to connect with each other to provide finance. And people are just becoming increasingly dissatisfied with conventional stock markets, and they want to put their money someplace else. These platforms should also share information, share knowledge. We will just be a smarter and freer society if we share information. And especially for the platforms that are democratically governed, people need to understand the platform. It should be transparent so we know how money works in that platform and we know what it does. But also, we can share in the development of the platform. We can share in the efforts to create it if we share the code, if we share the programming language, because then many different users can contribute to the development of new apps, to improving the platform, to generally innovating as much as they want, because it is their platform also. So those are the 6 ways in which you can build sharing in. Another way of saying it is that we should treat sharing economy platforms as a commons. And here is one definition of a commons, which is basically that we can think of any resource as a commons if we decide to come together, manage it collectively in a way that creates equitable access and stewards it in the long term. So we can continue to shovel a little bit of coal into the old system because we have to eat, we have to live. I use these platforms, many people use these platforms, but at the same time, we can start creating the new cooperatives and joining the new cooperatives. This is the name of the cooperative that I'm working with right now, Loconomics. And we should all start to join it as soon as possible because that creates the critical mass that is necessary to help these succeed. So somebody who uses the old platforms that are not cooperatively based can join the others at the same time, and they can begin to grow. And hopefully, the older companies will take notice and begin to change the ways they operate to benefit the users more, and maybe even buy the company back from the shareholders and convert it to a cooperative. So this is the next sharing economy. This is the sharing economy that is going to benefit everybody. It is going to be so important to everybody in the world to create our economy based on actual sharing. So thank you.